Happy Valentine's Day, everybody. Saturday, February 14th, 2026. Good old 710 KNUS. Woo! Happy Valentine's Day, 58 the high, 66 on Sunday, and 68 on Monday. And to give you an idea of how last hour ended, you know, and I'm sorry, that you're just a sorry F-ing mess. And in fact, you don't want to go against your radio station and your money and everything else. I'm sick of it. We've already proven there's voter fraud, and where the hell have you been, Pete? Ladies and gentlemen, the Floors are with us.
Changing the subject.
That's right.
That's a hard act to follow.
Moving right along.
Moving right along.
So this was my show I planned for Valentine's Day, and of course, talk radio, no man its master.
There you go.
So Oltmann will be here next week. Chuck Morris is here, and Chuck, of course, the understudy to Barry Fay, and then moved on and worked for Phil Anschutz, and they built AG, and he's got incredible stories about rock and roll and the rock and roll business, and he's got a lineup of people that are going to call in.
Great.
So that's next Saturday, and then the Saturday after that, we will have Oltmann, and who knows whom else will come in studio. In the meantime, I've been trying to get these two guys to do a radio show. When did I first ask you? Like 2 years ago or something.
Yeah, well, finally you and I got 3 hours after Hulk Hogan passed away, and I got to tell you, that was one of the most fun times I've ever had on the air.
You were magnificent, and Jonathan, who is the separate, I mean, everybody knows what Deborah has done, but no one really knew your involvement in entertainment, Disney, working for Vince, being married to Deborah.
Well, it was
That's
actually
entertainment right there.
It was actually pretty funny. When we first got married, Deborah was Jonathan's wife.
Yeah.
It didn't take very long, and I was Deborah's husband.
Oh, that'll happen quick.
Well, smart was very up, so I did that.
What was your name before you got married?
So this is so funny because I grew up here in Colorado, and finally some of my high school fellow alumni finally found me because I was Debbie Ricks, Riecks.
Okay.
Now, I always tell my parents that if someday I found a better last name, because it's German, it used to be von Ricks, but my father being a lieutenant colonel, he's like, we will not say Ricks, we will say Ricks.
Sure.
But I grew up Debbie Ricks, yes she does, no she doesn't, ha ha ha. I mean, it was just endless jokes. So when I met Jonathan and we got married pretty quickly after we met, I'm like, Flora, I'm running with it. So the joke is now I am Senora Deborah Flora from Aurora. I just stepped right into that.
And in
My
this,
name was Flora. It's still Flora.
in this corner.
There you go.
Exactly.
My favorite place, Parts Unknown.
Yes.
From Parts
Those
Unknown.
were the mass medics.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
I tend to be the heel more than the baby. She's the pretty one, the good guy.
But you had done all you had done prior to meeting Jonathan?
Well, we've been married 25 years. So we met, I grew up here, went to Overland High School, Lowry Air Force Base, and I had temporary insanity, went to Hollywood. So we met there, and I always say 25 years in Hollywood years, it's like dog years. It's actually like 70, so we're pretty proud of that.
Well, now, who were you working for when you guys met?
I was with Disney then. So I'd already done the Dodgers, WWF, my radio career, all that was behind me. So I was with Disney in Burbank.
And I was doing acting. I was with the National American Shakespeare Company. I was acting, and we actually met at our church, which was always a very interesting thing because that was a huge conversation starter in Los Angeles. Everybody's like, what set did you meet on, or where, what bar or what party? But we met at our church, and they were bringing people together to make Christian movies, and we both had this same response. We were kind of like, and there's a lot of great people. It's gotten much better quality, but at the time we were like, Christian movies tend to be an excuse for mediocrity in the name of Jesus. So neither one of us wanted to go to this. We did.
But you'd already been on a hit television show, right?
Well, I had been on a soap opera for a while because and then I've been really close on to several large movies, but a lot of what I did was theater. And I'd begun to realize when we met that I really did not care anymore about trying to navigate being an actor. It's really tough to be
That's
a single
that's
woman,
really tough.
be an actress, and maintain your integrity. You know, as a Christian, there's certain roles I wouldn't do. But by the time we met, and we do tell this story, we did make a movie right away. So he was a director, and we, so we did meet in that way. But we quickly began to start a production company because we cared more about the content and the stories behind the films than whether or not I was in it or anything like that.
What films were you in?
I was in some movies that didn't get as wide a release as we would like. Actually, by the way, Jonathan's been on the cutting room floor of more large movies than I have.
Yeah, Primary Colors, As Good as It
Oh,
Gets.
man.
I mean, I was on all those, and it was actually interesting for As Good as It Gets because Brooks, the director, he had me go from being a one-line kind of guy to go over here and do this with Cuba Gooding Jr., go over and do this. And I'm getting all these lines now. I actually got bumped to my own trailer. And when I didn't get invited to the crew and cast party screening, I knew then I probably didn't make the cut. And I didn't. And then even when the DVDs came out with bonus features, I still didn't even make the bonus features. So.
I didn't know you had ink till right now. I mean,
I do.
You've always had
Yeah.
long
I'm
sleeves
like a
on.
walking billboard. It's kind of like my Indian belt of my life. You can tell what I've been and done.
Here's a funny story: is all his time in the military, never had a tattoo. We got married on our first anniversary. We got matching tattoos. I've never had one.
You got ink too?
I did. Yeah, that one is where no one else sees it. But
I see it.
No, I'm onto those.
But then for our
I know.
for our 25th anniversary, we also got matching tattoos just last year. Mine's a little bit more feminine, and his is it's Micah 6:8, which is a scripture that we love. It's what does God ask of us but to act justly, love mercy, and walk humbly with God. And after running for Congress, I was like,
Oh, that was rough.
that means a lot. Yeah, that's a whole other.
That was rough.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah,
But-
all her wounds are back there in the back,
Oh,
not
the
the
arrows,
front.
no.
Yeah, from our own side. But back to when Jonathan and I met, one local project that did have national impact was I was actually in The Shining, the remake that Stephen King did, and I was also his personal assistant. And that was shot up at the
I
Stanley
was
Hotel.
in that film.
Were you?
Yes.
Oh my gosh. Wait, which scene, what part?
Stephen's producer, director, sidekick is a guy named Mick Garris.
I know Mick Garris really
I
well.
know Mick real well.
I worked with Mark Carliner, who was the producer.
This is a bizarre story, but
It is.
But so I knew Mick. So they were up in
The Stanley Hotel.
Stanley Hotel in
Yes.
Estes, and he calls me one morning. He says, "Hey, Pete, man," and I said, "Hey, Irish, what are you doing?" And he said, "Stephen and I are listening to your show," and I was doing the morning show in KHOW, and he said, "Stephen likes the show." It was brassy to do it. But I said, "You think Stephen would like to come down and do the show?" And he said, "Wait a minute. Yeah. What time do you
That's
want
great.
us?" And I said, "I'd love to have Stephen King for like the whole show." He said, "Well, we can probably do 2 hours." Stephen King comes down, and I knew that The Shining was about recovery.
Yes, yes.
And so, the chances of meeting Stephen King are, and I have this theory about Stephen King's first books. It's the disease of alcohol and drug addiction, because it comes back.
Yes, it does.
And Cujo reappears and it reappears, and the same thing. Jerusalem's Lot.
Yes.
Everything it's the disease.
Well, and that's what The Shining was. So Stephen, we ended up becoming pretty good friends during that because I was his assistant, and it was when Frank Darabont came up to meet with him about doing the Green Mile and all that. But Stephen tells this really interesting story about why he wanted to remake The Shining.
He told me.
He probably shared this. He said the first time he spoke, the only time he ever spoke to Stanley Kubrick.
He didn't like it.
Yeah, Stanley Kubrick. He was in the shower. His wife Tabitha says, "Stephen, you got to come out because it's Stanley Kubrick." So he didn't have the power at the time. And he gets on the phone, he walks out, and Stanley said, "I have one question for you." And Stephen says, "What's that?" He goes, "Do you believe in God?"
Yeah.
And Stephen said, "Well, yes, I do." And he goes, "Well, I don't." And he hung up the phone. And he knew then that what Stanley Kubrick did incredibly artistically, incredibly chillingly, but he changed the entire message of the movie. It was the most personal of Steven's book, he was telling me, because when he was in Boulder and went to the Stanley Hotel, he was dealing with alcoholism.
Yes, he was.
And at the end, there was redemption for the main character instead of nihilism.
And so he comes into the studio, and Garris is off talking to everybody, and so we hit a break, and I said, "Can I ask you something?" And I said, "I think I've read almost everything you've written." And I said, I have a hunch that you're in recovery. And he looked at me and he said, and he brought Mick back in, and he said, "Hey Mick, who's running the AA meeting?" This is where I fit into the movie.
Yes.
And we're sitting there, and he said to me, he said, "Do you ever run an AA meeting?" And I said, "Yeah." He said, "Do you want to run one in the movie?" And I said, "Well, yeah, sure." You know, I was like befuddled that he would ask me, because he's, you know, these guys. And so they had Colorado Women's College, and they were using it as the site of the AA meeting in the Overlook. And I went out there that morning, and they put me in makeup, and the guy's sitting in the chair next to me, and they have all these monster faces. And he said, "What are you here for?" I said, "Oh, I'm alcoholic." And he kind of looked at me. I said, "What are you here for?" He said, "Well, I'm the star of the movie."
Was it Steven Weber?
It was Steven.
It's Steven
There you
Weber,
go.
yeah, from Wings.
But we had this, and then KOA, the Rockies had started, and Stephen King's a huge baseball fan.
We went to that game. I went to the game with Steven.
You were in the box.
Yes.
I was in the box.
Oh my gosh, Peter! We only are finding this out now.
Now.
All those years ago.
Yeah,
So.
because then we went down where the press box where they were calling the game.
Right.
And Stephen went down there.
Yep.
And I thought the world of him.
He is a great guy. The way I would describe Stephen King, the first time I met him, he walked in the door, and like I said, I was his assistant on the set, and then I was also in it, but on the cutting room floor eventually. Stephen walks in, and we actually got along because I hadn't read Stephen's books. I was the only person,
man.
so I was kind of the gatekeeper in a way, because I'm just not a big horror fan. And Stephen walks in, and he reminds me of Tom Hanks in Big. He walks in, he's tall, he's wearing this
He's real
rumpled
big,
baseball
yeah.
cap, kind of too short of jeans that are baggy, and he looked like a 13-year-old stuck in this like 6-foot-something body. And so he had just been coming out with the serial of The Green Mile, the serial novels.
yeah.
And I said to him, I said, "Stephen, how do you come up with this stuff?" I said, "What?" And he goes, "Well, this was all based on my fascination with the electric chair."
Yeah.
And he said, and I said, "Stephen, Stephen, you kind of remind me of like a 13-year-old that just gets fascinated with something like, what happens if you put salt on a slug?" And he goes, "That's it exactly." And then his incredible creativity. He's actually, I think, will go down as one of the best writers of our time. So prolific. But Stephen is a good guy.
Very good guy.
One last story, and then I'm going to. This is also, by the way, 25 years of marriage. Jonathan is very patient when I talk.
I love it. The guy's just sitting there.
I'm a good listener.
Yeah.
But one other story is. Stephen, when we were doing The Shining, I was actually in a car accident. We were moving from the Stanley Hotel, down to Stapleton, where we were going to do the internal stuff, and a PA, production assistant, was driving us, and we ended up sliding on ice, going down the mountain. We took out a tree, and we ended up stopping just at a sheer drop-off. And fortunately, there was a doctor that was behind us. They took me to the hospital, and the first person that showed up was Stephen. And I'm lying there strapped in with this neck brace, and all of a sudden this big face leans over and he goes, "Deborah, what is God trying to tell me?" And I'm like, "Stephen, I don't know, but I'm just saying, thank goodness his angels kept me alive." But we would have these deeper spiritual conversations because of his journey. He's a good man.
He and I talked, and then we ended up talking at the ball game because he really wanted to talk. I didn't want to hang around with the big star and act like I was, sucking up or something. And he said, "No, come here." And we talked about all of his. I said, when I was a little boy growing up, Frankenstein and Dracula and the world, they all died. I mean, as spooky as the movie The Thing, Howard Hawks made The Thing, that scared the hell out of me. But it was dead. When I left the theater, they had shrunk it with the lightning, with the electricity. And Lugosi dies and Karloff dies. And I said, "Your stuff doesn't die." And I said, and that's really where I picked up what he's really talking about.
Yeah.
He's talking about us, and then the carpet on the floor and the kid and everything. And so, no, we talked about it for a long time. And in Jerusalem's Lot, which is one of my favorite frightening Stephen King's, where they're hiding in Guatemala from the vampires, and I'm going like, that's the disease talking. That's and he was like, and I still hear from Altman. Excuse me, Altman. He's
No,
living
we
in my
changed
head
the
right
topic now.
I still hear from Mick Garris, and
Oh, he's a good guy.
Yeah.
And his wife, beautiful woman, she was the ghost figure in the room that was haunted in the Stanley Hotel. That's his wife, tall, beautiful, blonde. And he had so much fun. Jonathan first directed me in something, and it had that edge to it. And he was a director, I was his wife, and he had like those special effects, like making me look monstrous at certain times or whatever. And we joked about that with Mick and his wife afterwards.
Well, they invited me up for the final scene the night that they came home, and that was really the difference. I didn't like Kubrick's film. Because I read the book.
Yes.
So I didn't like Kubrick's film, and Hal and Charlie, who were Denver radio legends, are in that movie. When remember the cook leaves the airport, he's going to go and find. When will it shine? It'll shine when it shines.
Yes.
One of my favorite lines. I did that with my grandson the other day. When will it shine? It'll shine when it shines.
Yeah.
And he's trying to get up to the overlook to save the little boy, and of course he gets killed up there. But Hal and Charlie are on the radio in the background of Kubrick's film.
Wow,
And
that's something.
all these kind of things kind of tie. What are we doing here? All these kind of things kind
Well,
of
this
tied
is the
in.
director you want to talk to right here.
But
Well, I have the respect for Stephen King and what he was doing with you. It's always fascinating to me. The good writers, people are the greatest source of material. Everybody has a story, so we can take things from individuals that we witness, what they say, how they act, how they dress, and that becomes a character.
Our guest, of course, Deborah and Jonathan Flores, this is Halloween. Listen to me. I'm doing
that's
Stephen
Stephen
King.
King.
Yeah. This is, of course, Valentine's. And you guys have been married a long time.
Yes, we have.
Got married late. I wish I'd have met her earlier so I could have more years with her, but
that's so
it's God's
kind.
timing.
Yeah, it is.
So
Yeah.
we got 2 minutes to the pause. What's the secret when someone asks you?
Marry your best friend.
Yeah.
And for men, marry up. I told a buddy one time, I go, I married out of my league. He goes, dude, you married out of your species. And that's what smart men do. Then marry your best friend.
So you met where?
At our church.
In Hollywood.
She claimed, we have different stories. She claims that we met earlier, but I don't remember.
Well, it's like I met her. I didn't know. You were in the movie. We were together.
We were together.
Yeah.
But yeah.
So I say she kind of sort of stalked me
Well,
for about a year. And
that's a version we'll have to unpack after the break.
So what were you working on when you guys met?
Well, it's interesting. I had, like I said, done predominantly theater with the National American Shakespeare Company in Los Angeles, because I tried out for things like Baywatch Nights, and I'm like, this is not why I went to a league theater program. And then I was doing theater, and we actually met after, I'd been out there as a single woman for probably about, 10 years, and it beats you down. And I thought to myself, there are no real men out there. There are Peter Pans out there. There are not people who are not self-absorbed. There's some good folks out there, but I hadn't met them. And so I'd kind of given up on love, so to speak. And then I went back to church. I'd walked away from my faith for a little while. It kind of beat that out of me for a while. And then went back to church and saw this man standing up there. And I was just like, oh my goodness. We'll talk about that later.
He is. All right, well, now we got to take the turn. It is a Valentine's morning. It is Saturday, February 14th, 2026. 58 will be the high, 66 tomorrow. Motorcycle weather. I'm Peter Boyles. Stay here.
Your KNUS forecast for the Denver metro area includes a chance of a little bit of some shower activity early this Saturday morning. Otherwise, weather system continues to move eastward. We'll see clearing skies, have highs today mid-50s, lows near 30. Unseasonably mild wintertime and mid-February conditions for your Sunday to Monday. Highs generally mid-60s, lows mid to upper 30s. Starting to trend cooler, breezy to a little windy with some developing rain on Tuesday. Could have some snow by Wednesday. I'm meteorologist Mark Huer in the 710 KNUS Weather Center.
Saturday morning, everyone, February 14th. It's Valentine's Day, and I got two really, really special friends in studio. Deborah and Jonathan Flora are here. 58 will be the high, 66 tomorrow, 68 on Monday. And you've seen them popping up on every corner, those big corporate dental chains that have been infiltrated by private equity and people who only care about the bottom line. They treat you like a number on a spreadsheet. You never see the same doctor twice, and I don't know about you, but I'm tired of it and went to the dentist that knows my name, stands by his work. And Dr. Richter, Twin Aspen Dental Center, I've been going there now for 5 years. Dr. Snyder, Dr. Rich, they run a local private family practice where they actually take the time to do it right. They offer everything your family needs under one roof, so you're not being farmed out to some specialist. We're talking about the high-tech, latest tech, same-day crowns, you're in, you're out in one visit. No dental implants, no dentures, no Invisalign. They do all of that in-house with them. They don't send you someplace else. If you're in pain, They offer same-day emergency services and get you back on your feet fast. The high-tech care, the small-town handshake, they really take, again, most insurance, but if you're self-insured, ask about the reduced fee membership plan. It's a common-sense way to get quality care without the corporate price tag. These are wonderful folks and good friends. TwinAspenDentalCenter.com, 303-841-7406, 303-841-7466. I did that wrong. Apologize. 303-841-7466. Twin Aspen Dental, professional care, neighbor to neighbor. The Fleurs are here, and I think these are guests that could come on 4 or 5 times a year.
Sounds like fun.
And we learn. When I met Jonathan, and it was at a Christmas party, I think, and somebody said, Jonathan worked in professional wrestling. Well, I thought, in radio, there's only I'm the only guy that ever worked in professional wrestling. I went down and sat down next to him. 4 hours went like that.
Oh yeah, there was nobody else at the party. It was just you and me, babe.
No, and he, well, talk about your life in pro wrestling and how you got there.
Well, it was really a bizarre way because my father was in the Navy for 20 years, which convinced me I did not want to be on a ship with a bunch of guys. So I thought I'd do something more sane and enlist in the Army and jump out of airplanes. I was in the 82nd Airborne.
Made sense.
And the reason being I wanted to serve my country. And I knew that would probably be a ticket out of my small town because college was for rich, smart kids.
Yep.
Knew very well we were not rich. We didn't grow up on the wrong side of the tracks because
we
both sides of the tracks were the same.
We weren't smart.
And I was told I wasn't smart. You're right. But as a result, I was able to go to college. I went to Ohio University. I got my bachelor's and my master's. And through a very serpentine way is how I ended up at Disney. But I was with the Dodgers at the time, working down at Vero Beach, had a possible gig coming up to the Parent Club in LA, and somebody in my master's program called me that was the head of marketing for the World Wrestling Federation. And he goes, "You want to come to the WWF?" I'm like, "Wrestling?" Like I said, I was raised on that. My grandfather totally believes it's real.
My grandma,
he would watch a football game and say, a bunch of grown men fighting over a ball, give them all the ball, let them go home. But wrestling, they need 2 referees because these guys are too big, too fast, and he was a total believer.
My grandma did the rosary when Bruno Sammartino wrestled on TV.
And that's why he was champ for so long.
A true believer in every sense of the word.
Yeah.
There's a person called a mark.
Yeah.
Explain marks.
Mark are groupies.
Yeah.
You know, they call them jobbers in the FDNY. They're just people that can't get enough of it.
We mark.
They're total believers. And when we were on the show last time together, we talked about when Vince McMahon deregulated the WWF because it was considered a real sport. And he goes, "Why are we paying all this money for the National Wrestling and Boxing Commission or whatever to come here?"
Yeah.
He goes, "All right, we'll just go to court, get deregulated, stop giving these people money, and never miss a beat." Because Jimmy Hart said, "For believers, it doesn't matter. For non-believers, it doesn't matter."
Explain kayfabe.
Kayfabe is I've drawn a blank on it.
No.
It's a situation.
It's a language.
Well, we called it. It's like carny. We called it carny,
exactly what
which
it
is
is.
kind of like pig Latin.
Exactly.
And it was very unique for me because when I got the job there, I was told, "Don't be one of the boys. The boys don't like the suits. Suits can't be one of the boys."
They called it the office.
The office.
The office.
Yeah, it was down on Summer Street, and then they ended up getting that brand new building on 95. But I worked out a lot then. I was pretty big back in the day. And so when we would get on the road, I'd go to Gold's Gym and work out, and the boys would be there. And they came to really respect me. And I was able to get them to do things that a lot of the other suits couldn't, because a lot of these guys were 3-piece suits, 160 pounds, never did anything in their life. I can go in there and lift weights with these guys and get it. So I kind of was a hybrid in that regard. So it actually worked out for me. Because they would, like to your point, they would be talking, and a certain suit would walk in, and they'd flip into kayfabe or carny, like right off the bat.
Or in front of a mark.
Oh, yeah.
And when I traveled, the limited travel I did, but if 2 of the boys, 2 wrestlers were there, and somebody walked in, everything switched quick. Because when I was working, kayfabe was still, people believed it to be true. Mm-hmm. My grandma believed it to be true. Yeah. My grandma wrote me a letter when Larry Zabisco turned on Bruno Sammartino in the Garden, my grandma wrote me a letter about it.
And people were scarred.
Oh,
But I love the history of it because
Yeah.
carny being the other word, it goes back to the carnival acts way back in the day.
where they started.
Where you got the bearded woman and the world's strongest man talking, and then somebody will walk in and they'll switch to another language.
Or the wrestlers they took out on the tours with them, and guys like Strangler Lewis and all those legendary
names.
guys. Oh, Farmer Brown. And they would challenge. You know,
Yeah.
some rough kid would come out of the audience, and these guys were shooters. And,
Yeah.
and they would, and they for the money, they'd mess you up.
Well, I've still got a picture somewhere of Haystack Calhoun holding my sister, and she's like
Yeah.
this big in his hand. He was 600 plus pounds.
Well, the announcer would always do, so Haystack, what do you have for breakfast? And then and that was a standard. I have 900 eggs, 6 loaves of bread. Remember that guy would
yeah.
do that?
And when he would come and sit, he would put two metal chairs together.
Yes.
Because it took 2 chairs to hold him up.
Did you ever work around Andre?
Yeah, yeah. Andre, I've got an interesting story, but he was, even though Vince owned the company, everybody referred to Andre as the boss.
Oh, yeah.
Because he
He ran it.
he ran it.
Yeah.
You know, everybody talked about Hulk Hogan, who really became the face.
Yeah.
But if you've seen the documentary about Vince,
did.
Andre is what really helped build the foundation, and then Hulk became the face of it all. But I remember one time we were in Boston, back when the Garden didn't have any AC. Remember the one hockey game where it all
Yeah.
fogged
It
up?
melted.
They had to stop because they could. Whoops, I'm so sorry. I'm animated. It's the Italian in me that
It's
I don't
wrestling.
have.
I should have moved.
Yes, I'm getting. Let's go. Squared circle. And Tim White was Andre's assistant, but he was also one of the referees. And he goes, "Hey, the boss wants you to join him for drinks after the show." I'm like, "Ooh, that's cool." And so when I go there, all the other wrestlers would be in the lobby or the bar of a smaller hotel, and it's packed. Andre got his own place. He was in a nicer hotel, a different place. And when I walked in, I saw where they had it roped off because people would just stand. It was like being at a zoo. People were just standing there,
Yes.
5 or 6 deep,
Yeah.
just to stand there and see Andre over at the bar. And so when I came in there, we sat, there were 4 of us, and we drank all night. And when they did last call, he goes around and he goes 3, 3, 3, 10. And he brought out 10 drinks. And as the night goes on, you get a little numb. You kind of get used to this massive guy being this close. But when we said goodnight and said goodbye, I remember I'm 6'2". When we stood up, he just kept going and going and going.
Now, you're a big guy.
And then you shake his hand.
Yeah.
My thumb and small finger barely covered the pads of his hand. He was ginormous. But it was just such a good conversation, you know, and imagine the kind of life that he had since he was young. You know, he never really had an ordinary, normal life because he was a star everywhere he went. Even if you were living in a cave and came out and saw Andre, you got to go, okay, who is this guy? And the things that we take for granted, regardless of our size, he can't do.
Did
He's
you
gotta
feel,
have exceptions.
this sounds terrible to, well, did you feel sorry for him?
Yeah, I did.
Yeah.
Because there are groupies, you know,
Oh, yeah.
just like any rock band.
People that
you know,
wanted to see things.
see
Yeah.
things, and also girls,
Yeah.
you know. But he never got to have a really normal life. And how can you when you're way over 7 foot and like 520 pounds?
He had an assistant when I met him, and I worked 2 shows with him. The guy's name was Frenchie, and Frenchie was Andre's guy, took care of Andre. And he said that they knew that Andre couldn't, and this is a tribute to Vince. Vince could not keep him because nobody's ever going to beat him, so he farmed him out for money.
Yeah.
He was a novelty that, I mean, Vince paid attention to Andre and paid him.
Yeah.
But if he was going to come to work for Vern, where I worked at the AWA, then he came as a novelty, and he would beat everybody up, and people paid extra because they knew that, you know, you're going to travel with Andre.
Yeah.
And I talked to him just for like little bit of time. I was actually in awe of him, and everybody kind of said, "Leave him alone, and you'll be better off." But that's what he was.
Well, and that's how, and again, he did keep to himself quite a bit because the guy was in pain most of the time.
That's why he drank.
And honestly, him being so physically again, I'm no expert, but it probably is what prolonged his life. But at the same time, it came with the paycheck of getting banged. Because we talked about that. These guys get banged up all the time. And going back to selling him out or loaning him out, until Vince created the World Wrestling Federation, you know, we had all these pockets. And eventually, your star is going to get a little saturated and overplayed. My star is going to get we'll just swap our stars.
Move them around.
And then we'll bring it on back. And then Vince, of course, you know, brought everything together under one banner.
Who was your favorite guy to be with or work around?
Boy, it's tough because there were some on different levels. You had the different tiers. Yeah. Hillbilly Jim was great.
You know, he's a jock now. You know, he's on the air.
I would not be surprised. He was just, there were some really down to earth guys that could never get to the next level, or they had their shot and they weren't getting the heat they needed. You know, either way. But Warrior was an interesting guy. Oh. Really kept to himself. He was juiced a lot. So, but Macho Man Randy Savage, he was always Macho Man.
Oh, yeah.
And he was so cool. And you get him aside, he loved to talk baseball.
Yeah, he played
his dream was to be a pro baseball player, and he was with the Reds and Cardinals as a catcher for a while. But a lot of them were unique in their own way, and some you couldn't just stand to be beside. Some were just, you know, jerks. But that's the population. That's how
who smartened you up?
Who smartened me up? Basil DeVito, who was the head of marketing, the guy that recruited me. If I ever had a mentor in my business, it was Basil, and what a great name too.
Oh, it's a great name.
And I wish I had taken more advantage of what it was, because when I got my master's degree in marketing, went to the Dodgers, did these other things. But when I learned how to market, it was when I was with the WWF.
Oh, sure.
And he had a great line. He was with the NBA earlier, and he goes, "Look, we're going to charge you for the full price ticket of the whole seat, but you're only going to need the edge."
I learned talk radio, from those guys. I really did.
And how to ring a bell.
How to ring a bell and how to get out of the ring quick, but because before you got hit. But Bobby Heenan, I've told this story. We were in Casper, Wyoming, and we were surrounded. They had bad security, and I know I told you the story. And we couldn't go out because there were Native Americans outside who were marking pretty hard, and they also had a little consumption, and so we had to stay inside till almost 3 o'clock in the morning, and then we would travel. And they had what we called church vans, or I called them church vans. Those big long Ford. They had like 4 seats in them, and because they wanted to smoke pot and drink, so I had to drive. And we had like 2 or 3 vans, and a ref would drive, and so I had the tux ripped that night. I had a rental tux, and I got it ripped in the ring, and I got clipped. And we're walking out across the parking lot, and Bobby smartened me up and always kind of looked out for me. And he's as big as Jonathan, and so he put his arm around me, and I said, "What a great night!" I mean, I was all excited, and he turned me around the parking lot and he said, "Did you get paid?"
Mm-hmm. You're like, "Oh, I forgot about that."
No, I did get paid. I did get paid. Yeah. But I learned everything that night.
Yeah, a lot of these guys, they knew they were in a very unique situation. I mean, I used to cover the Bengals, cover the Reds, you know, and then again working with the Dodgers. The wrestlers though were in a very unique situation because they knew that they had an opportunity. A lot of them were athletes in other sports, and they had their NFL dreams, and you know, talking about Macho Man with baseball, but they knew they were in a very unique situation. Interesting that you say he's the one that smartened you up, because Bobby the Brain Heenan, these guys were just down to earth guys that this was their business, this was their job, and once you got inside. And again, I was very fortunate that they accepted me the way they did, respected me, because you got a real peek behind the curtain of what goes on. Yeah. And once you're in, you're in. These guys will defend you too.
Know, he didn't know his father. He had his
tough life.
His mother and his grandmother. It was Dick the Bruiser took him on the road when he was a kid. He had Dick the Bruiser stories that were, if half of them were true. Yeah. Richard Alphys, Dick the Bruiser, and I do a follow-up. We got a break. This is As Expected. Deborah and Jonathan, Florida, Peter Boyle, 710 KNUS. This is their song. Sing along.
sweet it is to be loved by you. I think James Taylor does it better.
Yes, he does.
Sometimes. There it is. 710 KNUS, it's Valentine's Day. In studio, this is more than I had hoped for. I've been trying to get these guys to do a radio show with me for, I don't know, well over 2 years. When were you here? When did you have a full-time show here?
Well, I think we moved back home because I'm from Colorado. We moved back, and this was my landing spot. It was really wonderful because I'd had a show here that I was actually doing out of California for a while.
Oh, wow.
And it aired here because the head of Salem at the time found my partner and I. She and I were doing a show together, and he said, you need to reach out to Brian Taylor. You need to premiere this in Denver. I'm like, well, I'm from Denver. It's great. So that was... Gosh, our kids were pretty young, so that was about 15 years ago.
Yeah.
No. We'd been wanting to come back for a while, and like I said, it was temporary insanity when I went to Los Angeles to be an actor. But the best part came out of it was meeting my amazing husband and starting a company together. And then we moved back because our kids were about to start high school, and we're like, we have got to get back now. We do not want to raise them in Los Angeles, and we wanted to get home.
You knew Trump or no Trump?
Well, I don't know him personally, but the story is I was Miss Colorado, ancient history, elbow, elbow, wrist, wrist, wrist. That is the wave.
I love it.
But I was Miss Colorado, and it was wonderful because I got to travel all over Colorado and meet amazing people, and I just loved it. But when I went to Miss America, it was in Atlantic City, New Jersey.
Sure.
And the two big names in Atlantic City were Donald Trump and Merv Griffin. They owned all of the hotels. And so I ended up, he was my judge that year. And the funny story is, we were talking about this during the break, I studied opera and theater in college as well as broadcasting. But I was like, okay, I was already thinking like a producer. You've got a show, you've got 10 women are gonna do talent, everybody's gonna sing, I'm gonna do something different. So I also played the flute. And I was like, I'm not going to stand behind a microphone and play Carnival of Venice in chiffon and bore people to tears. Because I'm like, got to be an entertainer. I think that's a through line we're talking about, whether it's wrestling or Hollywood or whatever. So I came out in this long dress, weighed about 10 pounds. I had my flute. I started playing Shenandoah, as boring as you possibly could. And all of a sudden, in the middle of it, this banjo breaks in. And it breaks into dueling banjos. And I'm walking back and forth, and I made sure I had a lav mic so I could move. And I remember watching, and Donald Trump at the time, nothing to do with politics. He was just known as a mogul. And we were warned, and I'm sorry, President Trump, if you're listening, we were all warned, it's after Marla, just stay away from him. We had two rules. Curfew and stay away from Donald Trump. And so when I started to play Shenandoah, he's sitting next to Merv Griffin, and they did not like each other because they were huge competitors.
Oh, huge.
So you see Donald Trump start going like this in the front row because it's boring. I tried to make it so boring. And all of a sudden, when the banjo breaks in and I start doing dueling banjos, he goes like this and he hits Merv Griffin really hard with his elbow. And he's like, okay. And Merv Griffin looked very irritated that he'd just been jabbed by Donald Trump's elbow. But that was our interaction. We did meet him again because we were part of an underground conservative organization in Hollywood called Friends of Abe that was started with like a handful of people, 10 people, grew to over 3,000.
Who's Abe?
Abraham Lincoln first.
Okay, all right.
But the joke was this: how could you talk about it? Because in Hollywood, you would get banned. Look at James Wood or John Ratzenberger or other people if it came out that you were conservative or Republican. So Gary Sinise started it with some named Lionel Chetwynd and Tom Dreesen, who used to be on the Tonight Show. And they said, okay, I think Tom came up with the name. He's like, how can we talk about this with nobody knowing who we are? And they said, okay, we'll be Friends of Abe. We know it's Friends of Abraham Lincoln, the first Republican president. But Tom always said if anybody overheard, they think it was Abe Leibowitz, who was like the top agent at CIA or something. Yeah. But Trump came one time to speak because most of the presidential candidates would come by. So those are my Trump stories.
We, inside of recovery in AA, we have a friend of Bill.
Yeah, there you go.
Yeah.
That was the other
Yeah, are you a friend of Bill?
Mm-hmm.
And we would also kind of use the mob mafia thing. If I bring somebody in and go, this guy's a friend of mine,
ours.
it's like whatever, friend of ours. We're like, ooh, he thinks like us. Yeah, my Trump
Friend of
story is a
mine.
little different.
Yeah.
We were doing a big event with WWF at Trump Plaza in Atlantic City, and we actually met with him a couple nights before the event, going over what we were going to do. And then the night of the event, we're in the green room, and he walks through, and he looks around, he sees me, and he's like, oh, and he walks right over. Jonathan, how you doing? Shake hands, talks. And then he goes on to somebody else. I go, man, Donald Trump remembered my name.
He's supposed to have that ability.
Yeah, well, I look down, I've got like 5 all-access VIP badges with my name on it.
No,
but he covered it well, so there we go.
No, that's one of his talents, is remembering names.
Yeah. And behind the scenes, he's supposed to be an incredible guy.
Yeah.
That's what people say, you know. And anyway,
Yeah.
we can get. I like how you bailed on a caller earlier. You're talking about one thing, and he brings up TDS. You're like, you're gone.
Come on,
We're
quit
gone.
it. I just don't want to do it. I'm just like,
Well, and the only bone I have to pick with Donald Trump is I came in 3rd that night instead of winning Miss America. But that's okay. It's all fine.
But they called your name.
Well, yeah, and here's what's interesting. When you watch the video, there's the woman who won is Debbie Turner, beautiful, intelligent woman. First runner was Virginia Chaw, Rhodes Scholar. I was a National Merit and President Scholar. So these are, you know, Miss America. Its day is long gone, but Debbie Turner and I both had the name Debbie. So when they said second runner up Debbie, we both go, you know. And then, but she did a wonderful job. And one great.
What are you doing with a woman like this?
Well, and we joke because she is a President Scholar.
No,
so when she came out, she could pick any college she wanted to go to. I went to the one that took me. So we're on
I know
opposite
that
ends of
one
the
too.
spectrum.
But he got a master's degree, and he ended up being a producer at Walt Disney Studios. He's very self-deprecating.
No. I mean, I love your husband. Stories
I
are
do
great.
too.
What? So what on your arms? I noticed you're more.
Well, the
ranked.
mica that we got on our 25th anniversary.
Okay. Did that,
Micah
Deborah, did that
6'8".
hurt when you got tattooed?
You know, no, the one that hurt was on our 1-year anniversary in Hawaii, where I was very sunburnt, and we
10
got
days of sunburn.
and we got one. It says Hakma, which is the Jewish word when God said to Solomon, "You can have anything you want. What would you want?" And he said Hakma, which is wisdom. So on our 1-year anniversary, we thought that is one of the most important
Mine's up
things.
here.
And mine's down here. That hurt. This one wasn't bad. This was last year.
So now I see.
Okay, but talk about yours.
Yeah.
82nd Airborne, jump wings.
Got
I
it.
told somebody I was getting this, and they said, "Why are you getting dumplings?" No, it's jump wings. And this one, our daughter actually designed this sword.
All right.
And it's 1 Corinthians 16:13, which says, "Stand fast in your faith, be courageous, be men."
And you also have another sword.
Cross nails of the crucifix.
Oh,
So it's
okay.
3
Okay.
nails.
I see that.
And then
Cross.
this is
And
the
then
recent
this
one.
is Latin. I don't know if you can
Yeah.
Deo e libertas, which means God and freedom.
I have a
or God and country.
funny story about his tattoos, because as we were saying, you know, all the time in the military, he never did. And then I grew up in the military. There's no way I ever thought I would have a tattoo, and I only have 2, and that's all I'm going to have. But we had this joke because we premiered, or not premiered, but we screened a movie that we made together. Jonathan directed it, called Lieutenant Dan Band for the Common Good, about Gary Sinise, 9/11, all of that. Well, we had the privilege of screening it at the George Bush Senior Library, and President Bush the first and Barbara Bush were both there. And this is when President Bush started getting notorious because he was jumping out of airplanes at, like, you know,
He was
89
tandem. He was doing
and 90.
tandems. Yeah. he was
So
doing
we were
tandems,
talking with Barbara Bush, and then he starts walking down, and they had a private screening with, I mean, it wasn't private. There's probably about 60, 70 people there. And basically, Barbara said, you know, when he got to a certain age, I told him he could do anything he wanted to, like jumping out of airplanes. And look, he dressed himself today because he's wearing these mismatching colors. So I told Jonathan, I'd like in the last year, I'm like, honey, if you want more tattoos, go for it. That is, you know, this is our
It's
version of
cheaper
the
than a
Bushes.
sports car, getting a Corvette or something
I can't
now.
get. I'm on blood thinners now,
Oh.
so that's over. I tried.
Yeah, you've got quite a bit.
I got a
Yes,
lot.
you
I
do.
got-
Yes,
I'm
you
amped
do.
up pretty good, but I tried that one, and it's on blood thinners. You just can't ink. So
Well, they told me when I got that's when he goes, now the way it's designed, he goes, in 15 years it's going to kind of start
well, we make a joke
blending
about
together.
that.
And I'm going, 15 years, there's going to be a lot of things hanging together. So
It started out as an eagle, and now it's a pelican.
with the surfboard.
We return on the other side. We'll take calls. Stay here. It's Valentine's.